good? What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of What the Game Means to Me. I'm, of course, one half the pod, Johnny Brown. Got my co-host with me today, and then another special guest, Mo Up in Flames from the Mo Up in Flames podcast. How you doing today, man?
What's going on, bro? Good to be back with y'all, man.
Of course, it's always a pleasure having you on. Like I said, just want to wrap up the NFL season. We know, well, both y'all teams are in the playoffs. I get to be a bystander as always, but get to talk a little bit about the NFL season and just wrap it up. See where our heads at. See where we think these teams are going to be at in the upcoming weeks. But Thad, how you doing today, man? See you repping. You got your Jaguars jacket on. You ain't wore those too many throughout the season, but looks like you had to rep it today. What's going on with you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. This winter go home though, so I can't. I'm soaking up the moment. We might this time next week we might be at home, so I'm just soaking up the moment. But I'm feeling good, ready to talk some ball.
Sure, for sure. Like you said, well, once we come back, we're gonna drop a little quick video, and we're gonna come back, and of course, we're gonna get right into it. So I'm gonna roll the tape.
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win!
Don't you open your mouth about the best, or I'm gonna shut it for you real quick. LOB.
Listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Lewis gets it to LeBron for three for the win. Yes! LeBron James at the buzzer.
Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
What was your mindset when you stepped in the batter's box?
Go yard. I mean, I'm a pitcher. Why not swing as hard as I can? I got nothing to lose.
It's nothing to man above. Don't put you in situations that you can't handle. Instead of saying why me, they're saying this is what he want me to do. And Cleveland, this is for you.
The way we approach the game is the same way we approach life. You do the right thing. You make the right play. Make the right play. And in life, it's the same thing. What do you feel in your heart is the right thing to do? And you do that. It seems so simple, but sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things to do. And I think it's just that.
Welcome to
What?
The game. To me.
All right. We're back, and like I said, 2023, 22-23 wrap up NFL season. Of course, just kind of want to get your overall thoughts on your team, and then also just the NFL season as a whole. So, Dad, I'll start with you first, because like I said, your team came back. Well, I forgot what y'all record was, but it was terrible, like 1-something. Obviously, ran off the last like 7. Won the game against the Titans to clinch the playoff spot, and then now you guys are here. So, overall, what's your feelings about the team and the NFL season as a whole?
Yeah, man, I'm feeling really, really good. Honestly, we're one season early. Really, this year I expected us to only win like 6 or 7 games. But I wanted to see progression, which I already saw. But we're in the playoffs. We won 9 games. We won 5 in a row. We're just a year ahead of schedule. So we're playing with house money right now. I mean, if we go to the divisional round, cool. If we go to the NFC Championship, cool. But I'm just, I'm glad to be here right now. But just feeling good about the team. We made a lot of free agent acquisitions, and they've all paid off, from Christian Kirk to Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. Everybody's made plays. Our draft picks have stepped up. Tyson Campbell, Trayvon Walker in the run game on Saturday. Just everybody making timely plays. So I'm feeling good about where our roster is. People don't even know that Calvin Ridley's on the way. Like, he hasn't even played with us yet. Mm-hmm. So if he's half of what he was, the sky's the limit. Got all our draft picks.
You're welcome.
I don't know. I'm interested to see what we do. I feel like at this moment, Jacksonville is a better destination than it was before. You got a stable culture with a quarterback and a head coach. So I'm interested to see who wants to come play with them in the offseason. Just the sky's the limit for the team. So I'm feeling good. But overall thoughts on the season real quick. It was a great season in my opinion. A lot of unexpected things happened, with teams we expected to be in the playoffs, not even winning 5 games. Some contenders showing up that we didn't expect to see. You got the Lions, teams like that coming onto the scene. So it was just a crazy season overall with a lot of back and forth. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the season and win. But it always goes by way too fast. I don't know why, but it always goes by way too fast. But I enjoyed it, and I'm glad my team's still playing.
Yeah, that's facts. I look up, I didn't even realize, like, literally last week of the season. But Mo, of course, your team, another year, another shot at getting past the first round of the playoffs. How you feel about your team and then just the overall season?
I mean, this is semi-consistent with what we've seen since Dak's been there. Anywhere between 10, 13 games. I know we went 9-7 one year when Zeke was suspended, but this is about when Dak plays. This is about where we're at. Look good going into the playoffs. Don't look the same come playoff time. So as far as Monday night's game, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at a lot of things and I'm considering, like, you know, I've been defending Dak for the longest, bro. I've been in Dak's corner more than anybody. I like Dak. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's great, but you don't need a great quarterback to at least get to the Super Bowl. Jimmy G's been there. You know what I'm saying? Joe Flacco has the Super Bowl. Like, you don't need great guys necessarily to get there or win one if everything's right around you. But I feel like this is a playoff win handed on a silver platter. And what you gonna do? Like, outside of what? Playing maybe Minnesota, who we already beat 40-3, is probably the best matchup you would want if you're the Cowboys, as far as handing you, man, this team, you know, the Bucs ain't been that good. So I'm looking into that, but you hand us some on a silver platter, and typical Cowboys, we know how to fumble it. I felt a lot different waking up Sunday about the Cowboys than I did going to bed Sunday night about the Cowboys. The way we played against Washington just kind of made me like, yep, here it goes. The start of typical Cowboys fashion. We're going to lose. So I hope we win. I want us to win. I'm rooting for us to win, but we know how this goes. And then the season, bro, it's a great season. I mean, great players played great. The guys that we wanted to see break out and show us something did, even to a higher extent. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, you know, Thad, your quarterback looks like everything promised coming into the draft now. And like you said, the sky's the limit. But really what I loved is the emergence of bad teams. Like, you got Jacksonville, who look like they could be set up for a prime to run the division the next 4 to 5 years. You got Detroit, who we all fell in love with in Hard Knocks, and Jamal Williams became like the NFL darling, start off 1-6, and Dan Campbell's job, is he going to stay there? Even though they play for him, they're just not good. And then they come around and go above 500. Like, so to see some of the bad teams, especially those two, and kind of be like, they got something going. They're young in a lot of places. Maybe I know a lot of people ain't necessarily going to go to Detroit and play football, but at the same time, you see what the team's going, you see what the culture's like, and even some of those young guys that were borderline starters on their team might go, or somebody looking for a second opportunity got their job took by one of the young guys might go to Detroit and Jacksonville. Like you said, I mean, Calvin Ridley coming back. I forgot about that. Like, I like what they got right now, and you add Calvin Ridley to that. So, I mean, but great guys were great. I mean, who have we doubted this year? Great. Joe Burrow is the top 3 quarterback. Patrick Mahomes probably going to run away with the MVP. Jalen Hurts to answer all the questions. Josh Allen, still him. Like, you know, the Vikings played great. Justin Jefferson, that dude. Like, all the young guys and all the guys who had something to prove, I think most of them proved a lot in their either now in the superstardom phase or they're on their way there. So that's kind of what I enjoyed the most about this season, is just the bad teams being good, and then some of these guys who had a lot of questions. Jared Goff playing like a top 10 quarterback all year. Like, we got a lot of things that you could appreciate once the season's completely done and you really look back on the regular and the playoffs.
Yeah, most definitely. Like you said, like a lot of guys like pretty much just continuing on, you know, that legacy and doing what we all expect them to do. Like I said, even Justin Jefferson, Chase, you know, even though he was hurt a little bit, but still, whenever he was on the field, lightning bolt. So, like I said, just guys just living up to what we thought they would be. As for me, like I said, I'm the loser, so I would go last. Of course, shout out to Ken, because I was on the show. We both did say the Falcons will win over 5 games, and obviously coming into the year, first game, Saints, thought we was about to win that one. I was like, oh, we're not as bad as people think. Obviously, just like Falcons fashion, we lose that one. Then we got a bunch of other games that we lose. I think we at a point we was the team that lost the most games under 6 points throughout the year. So a lot of close games. Obviously, didn't fall in love with Mariota as our quarterback, but he was definitely serviceable out there. Definitely hated that he essentially kind of quit it on the team. I know he had a baby girl come along the way and felt that was a little bit more important once he got benched. But, as a professional, I still don't think that's what you're supposed to do. But overall, my team, I'm just happy to see the growth and see that we actually drafted decent. London's looking like he can be a solid breakout receiver. Definitely wish we had him and really together. You're welcome to that. But, it is what it is. We'll hopefully sign one of these receivers or draft a decent receiver, this offseason. Tyler Algier, who, spoiler, I'm going to pick as my offensive rookie of the year, essentially was the third, fourth running back on the depth chart. First rookie with 1,000 yards for us, I think, over 30, 40 years. And essentially probably will be running back one next year. And then Desmond Ridder looked serviceable and looked pretty good. Each and every game he improved those last 4 games. So that's all you really want to see from a guy that's kind of thrown into the spot like that the last 4 games anyway. So overall team looked okay. Still have a lot of work to do. Got to fill a hole with Dean Pease retiring. Hopefully they just spend all their money this offseason on the defense, because that's kind of what I've seen works throughout the years. Like, you spend money on defense, you can draft offense and kind of pick and plug guys here and there. Plus, we got guys I think that are serviceable and have shown that they can play in the NFL on that side of the ball anyway. And the offensive line, shout out to them. We have 2 guys that's probably, I think, top 5 highest rated in their position than Caleb Gary and Lindstrom. So shout out to them, because our offensive line has been got awful these past years. But just like y'all said, just echoing the rest of the NFL this season, kind of sucks seeing certain teams be bad, but also was positive seeing certain teams be good. Loved, like you said, Detroit, even them spoiling Aaron Rodgers' trip to the the playoffs this past week. Just something that we all just love to see in general. Like I said, a team that started out 1-7, finished out the last games on an 8-0 streak. So just something good. And knew that we did just like to see coming into the year, because each and every year we know the ones that's going to be on top. But like you said, bad teams emerging. Just makes the NFL more interesting. So, but just can't say Justin Jefferson, you say Offensive Player of the Year. That's probably going to be a spoiler. That's also my Offensive Player of the Year. Don't know if it's y'all's, but probably coming up soon. But biggest surprise team, real quick, Mo. Who was your biggest surprise team of the year?
I mean, we kind of went over it. I get really Detroit. I'm gonna go with Detroit. I mean, they had everything. Like I said, we fell in love with them on Hard Knocks and Jamal Williams and Dan Campbell, and it just seemed like the vibe around that team was like some good things can happen for them. Jared Goff played. Like I said, he was a top 10 quarterback this year in pretty much every major category. He was somewhere within that top 10. You could tell me he's a dome quarterback and it fits him perfect. That's fine. But he showed that he's even more than serviceable. Like, for Detroit to be in a position where they're not looking for a quarterback after moving on from Matt Stafford, and he's more than just a bridge quarterback. They got some weapons. They can hit the draft hard on the defensive side of the ball. Like, it was a surprise. And to know that, who's going to win the division next year out of them, Green Bay and Minnesota. Like, you don't know. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, and I really don't care. But even still, you could see them winning the division. Like, if they have a solid draft, we're like, Lions might can win the division. They got a quarterback. They got a coach. They need some help on the defensive side of the ball. They got some players on offense, 2 running backs, 2 to 3 wide receivers, a solid enough offensive line you could build right there in the defense. So, but it surprised me how they were able to start out, 1-6, and finish 9-8. They won 8 of their last 10 games. So yeah, shout out to Detroit, because it was a surprise. Even as much as you wanted them to be good, you're like, they'll win 6 or 7 games, not finish above 500, and basically be in week 18 waiting for the result to find out whether they was going to be able to go to the playoffs or not. Sucks for them that they weren't able to, but to be able to spoil the guy who's been running your city for the past 15 years got to be a great feeling too.
No doubt. Dad, who you guys your big surprise team?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be a little different. I could say my own team, but I'm going to go with the Giants, show them a little love. From where they came from, I forgot what they were last year. They won maybe 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, I think like 5.
They were in a terrible cap situation with the Galladay thing. They let some good players go, and James Bradbury, who's balling with the Eagles now. And Brian Daboll basically, he took over a job, not a really appealing job because the quarterback situation wasn't prominent. The cap wasn't that well, and they didn't have that many weapons. But the way he took over the team, established the culture, and got the quarterback to play his best ball is something that shouldn't go unnoticed. That roster is not very good. You can tell by the way they play offense. He's doing the best he can, but a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of play action. Because they don't have any weapons. They're running out guys like Darius Slayton, who wasn't even he was a healthy scratch sometimes. Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James from Middle Tennessee. Like, these are all guys that were, going from roster to roster, and he found a way to, be competent with them. So what he's gotten out of the roster is definitely not going unnoticed. Daniel Jones, his turnovers have been going down. He'd been fumbling the ball lesser and lesser each year, but he's playing his best ball. Saquon had not a career year, but a bounce back year, and just overall getting the best out of his roster. That's what good coaches do. Letting Kadarius Toney go, like, they have no weapons. Their weapon, I mean, their roster is not that appealing on the offensive side of the ball with the skill positions. But what he's done to get that team to play hard and stay locked in and be disciplined is done numbers. And if you would have said at the beginning of this year, like, all 4 teams in the NFC East would have had a shot at the playoffs, you would have sounded crazy. Washington, they blew that. But shout out to Brian Daboll. I think he's had a hell of a year. And if Doug Peterson doesn't get it, I think he should get it for sure.
Yeah, one of the two, definitely. I'm gonna round it out with a third different team. I'm gonna go with the Seattle Seahawks. Definitely surprised. They had a point in the year, leading the NFC West. Obviously, a lot of injuries. Obviously, we didn't think the Cardinals were going to fall off the way they did. Obviously, they was missing D-Hop for at least half the season, but still thought they would be in the race. Obviously, the Rams just got awful all year pretty much. And then 49ers, quarterback situation, bunch of injuries, everything that they go through pretty much every year, but were able to bounce back and do what they did, obviously winning the division. But, Seattle at a point, like I said, winning the division right there in the playoff race the entire time, was able to finish out the year strong, obviously cemented their spot this past week. And pretty much like you said, that, obviously they got skill position guys, but no one really knew what to expect out of Geno coming into the year. Obviously all the drama surrounding Russ, trading him this offseason. Obviously they got a pretty good return. It's even looking like an even better return, given that the Broncos were booty butt cheeks this year. So, being in prime spot, being in the playoff spot, they got like a top 3-4 draft pick now, given the trade. And like I said, Geno, don't really know how long he's going to last, but he, probably comeback player of the year, even broke Russell Wilson's passing record this past year. So, just crazy storylines overall. Definitely a team that probably flew on the radar. We probably had them on the clock, honestly, right when they traded Russell. Definitely them in Texas, 1 and 2 picks toss up. But like you said, Pete Carroll got the most out of his team. We thought that defense wasn't going to be really much of anything. Obviously, they had guys on the offensive side of the ball to where we figured they can maybe work with it and put up some points, but defensively didn't think there would be much of anything. Obviously, getting rid of a lot of veterans that they did have, including one in Bobby Wagner who went to the Rams. So definitely surprising for me. Like I said, finished out the year strong, got that last playoff spot. Don't know how playoffs will fare. Maybe a one and done for them, but they're set up for a good future proposition. Like I said, picking like third in the draft. Obviously, Geno's playing well, and got him a nice rookie running back in Kenneth Walker and some other pieces on defense that they drafted. So I think that was a surprise team for me, just to see that they were able to at least stay in the playoff race and then submit that last spot this past week. But obviously, biggest surprise teams. We're going to move over now to the biggest disappointment teams. I know it could be a lot of different teams that can, that will squirrel. We'll probably have 3 different ones for this one as well. But Dad, who you got?
Can you let Mo go first? Because I feel like I'm gonna take his. You got it.
No, take mine, bro. Take mine. Just say it and take them, bro.
It's the Broncos, but I'm not gonna use the Broncos. I'm gonna go to LA Rams. Coming off a Super Bowl, I know there's a Super Bowl hangover, but even when Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald were healthy, they didn't look like the same team. I don't know what it was. Maybe they spent 2 weeks in Vegas instead of coming back to training camp. I don't know what it was, but the team just didn't look the same. The offense didn't look in sync. At the time, they couldn't establish a running game, which they have now. I don't know what was going on with Cam Akers, but after they couldn't trade him, he played very well for them. But just overall, big disappointment. I expected them in the 49ers to compete for the NFC West crown, but they just completely bowed down. And On both sides of the ball, they didn't look good. Aaron Donald didn't look like himself completely. I mean, it's kind of hard to do that because he's been dominant every single year he's been in the league. But Matthew Stafford didn't look good. Cooper Kupp, he was good, but they brought in A-Rob and he was never able to get on the same page with Matthew Stafford. Van Jefferson was out, so that took away their deep threat over the top. So just overall, they struggled. They're missing some pieces, and even when the pieces were there, they just didn't look like the same team. So I don't know. I would say this is one of the biggest Super Bowl hangovers, but I can't think of a team that won the Super Bowl that brought back this much of their roster. I know they lost some pieces, but they added Bobby Wagner and they went 5-12. If anything, I saw them going maybe 9-8 and struggling, but not 5-12 struggling. So I go to Rams by far, and they might not have their head coach, so you don't know what's going to go on in LA in the future.
Yeah. Mo, who you got?
So I'm leaving the Broncos alone, bro. I've killed them every opportunity that I could. And so I'm going to say one that might surprise you. I'm going to say the New York Jets. And the reason why is the way they started out the season as opposed to how they finished the season. And all of it is because they're a team who you look at them like you looked at Denver last year. They're a quarterback away. And essentially your quarterback that you could have had, and I'm not saying that he's great, but we've seen flashes enough that I think he could have been the difference in 2 to 3 games. And the quarterback that you could have had is wearing a Bears jersey. It's just that simple. We're not even, if they get Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy G or Derek Carr, you could have drafted the guy that we knew was the number 2 guy going into the draft. And you just tried to, people were talking themselves into now he's the 5th best. You could have got Mac Jones and probably fared out a little bit better than with Zach Wilson. So I feel like you almost kind of wasted a year of talent. And then it's the way you handled the quarterback situation. You bench him, and then Mike White gets hurt, unfortunately. So you go to Joe Flacco, and then you go back to Mike White, and you try and bring Zach Wilson in, and then you bench him again because he's not getting the job done. He basically got booed out of the stadium when you did bench him. Wasn't it? I think it was against Jacksonville, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he got booed from start to finish, pretty much.
Yeah, it was in the Jacksonville game. He didn't finish. I think he didn't come back after halftime. You basically told him, he's basically inactive for the rest of the year. But you look at all the talent they got. The Jets are a young, talented team that if I was a quarterback, I'd be like, oh yeah, if I'm not going to play on my team, I'll go play for the Jets. They got a lot. They got receivers. They got, Breece Hall be coming back. They'll have Michael Carter, James Robinson. They got a solid offensive line. Zach Wilson wasn't necessarily, they can improve it, but they got draft picks to do that. They got players on defense. So you look at the Jets and you're like, okay, and the way they started, this was a team that could have been second in the AFC East and competing for a playoff spot, and they just fell off the wagon. And so that's why I say it's a disappointment because of how you started and how you finished. There's 18 weeks in the season and you didn't finish strong and you couldn't figure out the quarterback spot. And so now you're back at trying to figure out, are we getting a quarterback? Are we bringing Derek Carr, Jimmy G in? And that's going to be the biggest question around the Jets. And I feel like if you just did what you were supposed to do and nailed it, and I won't even say it'd be nailed it, but if you just took who you were supposed to take in that draft and it's the quarterback not named Zach Wilson, I think you'd be in a lot better spot, especially with there were enough flashes from Justin Fields to at least know he's better than Zach Wilson. Is he going to be a star? Could he be benched at some point next year? Maybe. Could he be traded in offseason? We don't know. But he's at least showed that if you would have drafted him, you got a better guy than Zach Wilson. And at the bare minimum, that gives you at least 1 to 2 more games, would put you at 8-9, 9-8, and probably fighting that last week for a playoff spot instead of just trying to play spoiler to the Miami Dolphins. So I think just the way the season started and how it finished for them got to be disappointing, especially for Jets fans. You got your hopes up just to get it ripped right from you in typical Jets fashion.
Yeah, I feel that. Like you said, hopefully, we don't know with the A-Rod situation. Obviously, Derek Carr is not probably on the market. They got some guys thrown out there that can possibly go to that team. Like you said, maybe turn around and won't be, Mo's biggest disappointment next year because, like you said, they was right there in playoff contention the entire year as well, like you said. And then they just tried to make the Zach Wilson thing. They just forced it, and they forced it even, like you said, draft all the way leading up to that draft. Everyone's like, no, they just. I guess they just wanted something to talk about, and then they actually really did it, and they selected him. It was, we just know we see how that's ending up just 2 years in, so it's crazy. Like you said, definitely Justin Fields would have been a game or two difference for sure. But I mean, I guess, like you said, third is going to be another third different team. It's something I really can pick. I wanted to say the Raiders. Obviously, we just had big hopes for that entire division, and everybody just flamed out. Obviously, besides Kansas City, and then the Chargers came on. They had some spurts here and there where we weren't too sure, but obviously they got it together and they're now in the playoffs. But I want to say the Raiders. Obviously, bringing in Devontae Adams. You spent a little bit of money on the defense. Obviously, you got a plethora of weapons on offense. Felt like Derek Carr just needed that one receiver. And, I know there was in a lot of close games throughout the year, but, just wasn't able to put something together. And then there was games that they weren't even in it at all. And then obviously to finish out the way they did, put Jarrett Stidham for the last, 2-3 games, essentially benching Carr. I would say them. Another one I really want to say, though, because I just have to, I'm always going to hate on them when I get the chance. I'm going to say the Saints. That's really my choice. And the main reason was because it really was them and the Bucs going into this year. Obviously, our division as a whole has been trash, but it really was them and the Bucs that was supposed to be vying for the NFC South. And then obviously the Saints, one of the two, we felt like, with the not as strong what we thought going into the year, NFC, that the other one would probably get a wild card spot. The way they obviously defensively, they got all the guys, everything that you really need. They got Honey Badger, obviously, DeMario at linebacker. They got a stout defensive line. Quarterback wise, we thought Jameis would come in. They got guys, weapons on offense. We thought Michael Thomas was going to be healthy. Another year not healthy. He's always sitting. Landry came in. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, and then obviously Ingram. I thought personally, I don't know. Everyone was talking them up to possibly be obviously the team that either trumps Tampa Bay or would be one of the contenders in the NFC. And then they just came out, and it wasn't, honestly, I feel like they would have really got the knife in the back if they didn't come back and beat us in that first game. It really probably would have been over from that first game. But pretty much it was in third, fourth the entire year in the NFC South, and they were another team that didn't finish over 500 this year. So to me, I felt like they were disappointed. I guess it was just because all the talk that was going around them and Tampa Bay coming into the year, that obviously losing Sean Payton is a big loss. That's your head coach. You promote Dennis Allen, and things obviously weren't the same. But all the talent that they did have, I felt like they could have obviously finished a lot better than what they did. But I guess it's a disappointment, I guess, in their eyes, but it's glorious to me. I love to see it whenever the Saints fail. So one of my biggest disappointments, but obviously a joy to see them fail as well. But moving on, we're gonna hit on some of the NFL awards that we have, obviously for the year. A lot of these, we probably got a lot of the same guys, but of course, got to run through them. We want to see who has who. But the MVP, I'll start off with it. Obviously I went Patrick Mahomes. A lot of people felt like he fall off a little bit with Tyreek Hill, out the door. Obviously, they brought in guys, Scantling, Juju Smith. Obviously, they traded for Kadarius Toney in the middle of the year. He still has his guy Kelsey. I really don't know why people thought he wasn't gonna figure it out. He wasn't gonna use all his guys. He wasn't gonna perform like he hasn't shown that he's the best quarterback in the game. These last 2, 3, 4 years. So Patrick Mahomes, in my eyes, obviously there's a lot of other guys we probably could think of maybe, but he pretty much ran away with it the last 2, 3 games, in my opinion. But Mo, who you got for your MVP?
Bro, it's Patrick Mahomes. And everybody doubted him once Tyreek Hill left because they just was hoping he wasn't really him. And what does he do? Yeah, I'm going to throw for – didn't he throw for over 5,000 yards? Like, he almost –
only person.
Yeah, he came into the – and now, don't get me wrong. A month ago, it was a lot closer, and I could see you leaning not Patrick Mahomes, but Jalen Hurts gets hurt. And so now it was Patrick Mahomes' time to shine. I don't think Burrow or Allen played good enough. I don't think they outplayed Mahomes the way they needed to, because it was kind of a two-headed race with Burrow on the outside looking in most of the season anyway. But yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes. Like the doubt was they felt like he was a benefit of the weapons. I think more so if he were to ever fall off, it'd be when Andy Reid leaves, as opposed to you can plug and play guys. You got one of the greatest play callers we've ever seen in NFL history, and you got one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever don a jersey and be a signal caller in the NFL. Whether he goes down as the GOAT or not, that's just a different conversation. But as far as pure talent, bro, the man has it all. He can run. He can extend plays. He no-look passes, flip it when you think the play's dead. And he just flashed all of that, almost broke, the record. I think if they would have went all balls to the wall against the Raiders, then he would have. But he was like 430 yards away, and I'm like, I don't think he really needed to commit that kind of damage to the Raiders for them to win the game. So, but he broke some other record while he was at it, and so it's like you lose Tyreek Hill. Tyreek spent the whole offseason just telling us that he didn't downgrade going to Tua, and Tua's more accurate. And it's almost like Patrick Mahomes just heard all that, and it wasn't like a slight to Mahomes. He wasn't trashing Mahomes, but more so trying to build up Tua. And Mahomes just continued to show why he's the best quarterback in the league. And I mean, it's not close. Like, it's really not close. Like, it's like, it don't matter who's in there with this dude. Like, he's going to make the plays. He's number one seed again. The AFC is going to have to run through Kansas City again. Obviously different circumstances this year, but it's almost primed to be like, if it wasn't the circumstance, the AFC championship game would be in Kansas City, and it basically would just be like we've seen the past 4 years in the first place. So, I mean, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes, bro. Like, it just Hurts got hurt, and that's what happened. Like,
yeah, that's
all that out the window.
That who you going with?
Yeah, it's a three-peat, bro. It's Mahomes. I had it Mahomes forever. You can argue Jalen Hurts, but he got better. But like, he lost Tyreek, the most dynamic player in the league, the biggest game changer in the league. Like, if you take when you took Hurts off the Eagles, they struggled. But take AJ Brown away, or let Jalen Hurts come into this season with the same weapons he had last year and see how he fares. Take away his best weapon. It's like Mahomes got better. Defenses were starting to get film on him. They sat in cover 4 and cover 2 and started making him go down the field methodically, taking the checkdowns, taking the 10 to 15-yard dig routes instead of all the big plays. And he mastered that too. Like, he's just showing you how great he is. He can change his game. He can be an improviser. He can be a pocket passer. He can be a game manager. He can do it all. He's just showing what he could do. And I never really had any doubt. Most people in the network didn't have any doubt. But, the people on Twitter and the people that think Mahomes just plays backyard football, he's not actually a good quarterback. I'm pretty sure he showed everybody. So to get MVP when you lose somebody like Tyreek, like, I don't like to talk early about people, their greatness and where they're going to end up, but I'm pretty sure we see the trajectory that, where Mahomes is headed. And he showed his greatness. I think this is more impressive than his first year in a way, because he lost Tyreek, honestly. I know the 50 touchdowns is crazy in your first year starting, but to lose your best player and to go for 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and get the number one seed again, like, where was the drop-off? Could we find the drop-off? But yeah, it's Mahomes by a landslide, and there's really nothing to talk about. Nobody's doing what he does.
Yes, sir. And then
simple.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you dropped the mic. I said, can't even follow that. Like, honestly, like you said, ain't nobody doing it like him. It's a possibility, He goes, it has his second Super Bowl ring, third Super Bowl ring.
It'd be his second. It'd be his third Super Bowl appearance.
Third in the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah.
Second ring. So next we got Offensive Player of the Year. This one might be a sweep as well. Because at first he was in contentions to possibly be MVP. I know we had a few talks about that like 2-3 weeks before the end of the year, but and almost, I don't know if he did he eclipse? I don't think he eclipsed 2,000 yards. Justin Jefferson.
No, he didn't.
No, he can't. He didn't eclipse it, but obviously, it was talks that he would come close. But my Offensive Player of the Year, Justin Jefferson, just a beast this year. Like I said, it really didn't matter. When him and Chase came out of LSU, obviously Chase came out next year, but I always thought Chase was a little bit better. But Justin, it's always been 1A, 1B, I guess. But it's really probably 1A, 1A. He's just different athlete, different route runner, different guy. Just always gets open. You throw the ball in his vicinity, and it's in his hand somehow, some way. Probably has the catch of the year, if not top 2, top 3 catch of the year. When he snagged it with one hand from was it the Bills game, right?
Yeah,
it was the Bills game. So, yeah, so just a master around the football, obviously. Number one receiver, Kirk Cousins' best weapon. When you break Randy Moss's record, they almost get 2,000 yards in the season. There's really no other words for that. Like I said, I don't think anybody else really came too close. There's a lot of offensive guys that either were out a lot of games or didn't play as many games as him, obviously. But again, you can't you can't bat an eye at the work that he put in this year. So in my opinion, Justin Jefferson runs away with that. But Thad, who you got?
I'm going the same thing. Yeah, I'm gonna go Justin Jefferson too. It's kind of hard. I don't want to pick the same person, for every award, but this was kind of unanimous because in a way, I thought the MVP talk was a little crazy, honestly, but he's out of all the skill position players, I think he's number one. If this wasn't a quarterback-based award, he means everything to the team. He's not the most valuable player, but take him away, their offense is a little bit pedestrian in a way. But coming into the season when everybody knows you're the guy and they still can't stop you, says something. I know they have other weapons to worry about. They just added T.J. Hawkinson. You got Dalvin Cook. You got Adam Thielen, who used to be a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. But when they know you're number one and they know you're the focal point of the offense, and they kind of play like a boxing one, if you say and use basketball terms, where they man you up and play zone around you, and they still can't stop you. Like, I don't understand. Like, there's some times where what is it, like the meme or the video? They be like, "F it, what's the names out there?" Like, that's how Kirk operates sometimes. He'll be triple covered, not supposed to throw to him, but he'll throw it to him and he'll make him look good. So it's Justin Jefferson. I don't really know what else to talk about for this one either. He's as advertised, coming out, like you said. I thought Chase was better, but going into this year, after watching them both in the league, Jefferson's the more complete receiver. Coming out, they thought he was just a slot guy, but he showed he can line up at the X, the Z, inside. He can run the whole route tree. His run after catch is phenomenal. Him being skinny, I didn't think he was going to be the biggest run after catch guy, but he can break free when needed. So he's a total package, and Minnesota hit it out the park. I really, to this day, I wish we would have took him over Chase on, but we didn't, and it is what it is. But Jay Jetter's got the Offensive Player of the Year for sure.
Mo, who you got?
It's Jefferson, but if this team was a little bit better, then I probably would have somebody else, and it'd be Josh Jacobs. But because the team wasn't that good, I mean, the man, and I know it's on a contract year, but at the end of the day, like, you win awards based on how you perform. You could tell me Jacobs never going to lead the league in rushing. I don't care. He led the league in rushing this year. And what would if they had 8 or 9 wins, what would put me over is he had double-digit touchdowns. Justin Jefferson didn't. He finished with 8 touchdowns where, when you got 1,800 yards, you're first in receptions, first in yards. I'd like you to get that double-digit 10 to 12 touchdowns. But he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year for the simple fact, this is we're going to give it to the best offensive player that's not a quarterback. Typically, I think there's been years where we've seen 2 quarterbacks win it. But yeah, it'd be Justin Jefferson. But like I said, if the team was a little bit better and was borderline playoff team, I think Josh Jacobs will have a case because, over 1,600 yards, leading the league in rushing, double digits in touchdowns. Like that's what I like to see when you're first and second in carries and first in yards. Like, I want you to be in that double digit touchdowns, which would be my only gripe about Jefferson is he didn't reach the end zone as much as I think he should have. I think when you lead the league at 1,800 yards, bro, Cooper Kupp had what? Didn't he have almost 20 touchdowns last year when he had about 19 something? So bro, I'd at least like you to be in that really 12 to 14. So he kind of, I'll say he disappointed me in touchdowns a little bit, but it is Justin Jefferson for the simple fact you're not really going to give too much credit to Josh Jacobs because his play didn't lead to anything spectacular except for more money in his pocket, where Justin Jefferson's play led to wins in the regular season and a couple plays led to wins in close games. So it's definitely going to be Justin Jefferson. But like I said, let the Raiders have been 9-8. I think we would have a serious conversation about whether it's Jefferson or Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, honestly, I forgot. He had like a 4 or 5 game span where he was just breaking them off. And I remember, obviously, because I had him in fantasy. But yeah, you're right, 1,600 yards. He definitely probably runner up to Jefferson. But yeah, if they would have translated into some wins, there was a possibility. But Defensive Player of the Year. For me, I had Michael Parsons for a lot of the year. I wanted to go with Michael Parsons, but I don't think I can give the Cowboys too much love. So I think I end up switching over. I went to Nick Bosa. I think he had the most sacks this year. He played 16 games, so he plays either 15 or 16, so he didn't miss as many games this year as well. Had a few forced fumbles too, and obviously him along with the rest of that line was just a force to be reckoned with. I know Thad said at the beginning of the year that was his pick. Even I think with Trey Lance as their quarterback, that was his pick to for them to go to the NFC title game. And as the year kept going on, I was right on board with it. It didn't even matter who their quarterback was. Even when Brock Purdy went in there, and we'll see it a little bit later in the rankings, that I still have him very, very high. And it's because of that defense. And Nick Bosa is, obviously the anchor and causing a bunch of disruption for that defense. So I went with him for Defensive Player of the Year. Dad, who you got?
It has to change up after we, get to some other awards. But I have to go with Nick Bosa. Like, Micah Parsons was it coming in, but Nick Bosa, man, like, all right, his rookie was very good. They went to the Super Bowl. He tears his ACL the first or second game of the second year, and, maybe it causes some guys to get complacent or get down on themselves. But he comes back the next year with 15.5, and then he follows it up this year with 18.5.
18.5, yeah.
20 tackles for loss. Like, he just has a total package. He plays the run really, really well. He's a smart player. He's not one of those guys that's just going to rush the passer. Like, if you throw a screen his way, he watches enough film to where he might drop off or get in the way, disrupt it, or do whatever he needs to do. But just a total package, man. And he's not the anchor of that defense, because I give that to Fred Warner. But
yeah,
they need him as much as they need anybody else on that staff, whether it's D'Amico Ryans or Fred Warner or Armstead or whoever's making plays. But a great pass rusher that has all the tools, no weaknesses. He can bull rush you. He can use any finesse move in the book. Like when your father played in the league, you kind of like you're well coached. You know everything. You know what strengths you need to have as a pass rusher, what weaknesses you need to avoid, and all that. And, he just looks like he's a well-coached player that's fundamentally sound. And this award is well-deserved for him. And it has something to do with him, winning. Like, if the Niners are 4-13 and he was having a crazy season, I don't think they would get it. Like Mo was saying with Josh Jacobs, the wins matter. So the fact that they're the number one seed, and I think they won, 10 in a row? 9 in a row or 10 in a row? So I expect Nick Bosa to walk away with this award.
Mo, you got?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. These awards are too easy this year. Like, it's Nick Bosa, bro. It's really not close. I mean, for halfway through the season, it was Micah Parsons. And I've pointed out the past 2 months, bro, like since week 10, what is Micah Parsons really done? Like, point to a game. And yes, Michael Parsons is still a dude. Don't get me wrong. He going to get his bag. It's not hating on Micah Parsons, but since the Minnesota game, point to me a game where Michael Parsons stood out and he played elite. Like, he doesn't have a game since like week 10 or whenever. The last one I remember is Minnesota, but I know since like week 10, you haven't heard his name called much at all. Really, nobody on that Dallas defense. DeMarcus Lawrence been probably the best defensive player consistently, but you haven't heard the names from any of those guys from Dallas when through the first 10 weeks, they had the second best defense right behind San Francisco. They were the only two teams that hadn't allowed 20 points yet. San Francisco gave up 20 before Dallas did. And then it's just like after about week 10, they just flipped on the second half of the season. So it's got to be Nick Bosa. I mean, you lead in sacks. You got 20 tackles for loss. Like, everything that you and Thad said, that's what it is, bro. Like, the man this year, was the best player on the defensive side of the ball, regardless. And then, like, I just want to see who the runner-ups are, like, for these awards, because I think it's pretty much clear-cut and dry. Offensive Player of the Year, the only thing is if you give it to a quarterback, and that doesn't usually happen. It's the only way Justin Jefferson doesn't get it is if you feel like it's a sympathy award for, like, Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow. But even, like, the linebacker for Jacksonville, I don't know how to say his last name.
Alul Khan.
Yeah. He would have, like, I'd like to see if he's a runner-up. Like, I'd like to see if it's like him and Roquan Smith. I want to see where they look at, usually they give out the award and then they show voting and rankings, the top 5 or 7 guys that were in the running for that. So I'd like to see where he pan out. I'd like to see where Roquan Smith falls in that. I'd like to see where Hassan Reddick falls into that. So for these, I think it's pretty clear and cut, but I'd like to see who was like second, third, and fourth and how they were really voting. But it's pretty clear cut and dry. It's Bosa.
For sure. And we got 4 more up here. I'm going to run through all 4 of mine, and I'm going to give y'all pretty much a chance to go through y'all's as well. But for me, we got next, of course, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Sauce. Pretty sure not much discussion about that one. I know Some people obviously hate Aiden Hutchinson. I know made it pretty interesting. You know, came on really strong the last few years or last few games of the year. But in my opinion, Sauce kind of runs with it. I think he was, as a rookie, highest graded corner this year in general. I think he had like in man coverage like 15.2% like target rate. Like it was just crazy numbers, crazy stats. Like that you would see, and just like as a rookie, he came in the league. He said he's that corny. He's no more corny. He's that dude, and he showed it every day or every game. He stepped on the field. So in my opinion, I go with him as rookie of the year. The offensive rookie of the year, like I said earlier, for me it's Tyler Algier. I know obviously we could point to a few other guys. Kenneth Walker. It is biased, but I got to y'all got to pay attention. Like it's biased, but you got to think about where he came. He's a fifth round draft pick. He was like,
I get it. That's so biased, bro. You know who the hell the
1,035 yards, only starting 6-7 games. He probably even start that many games. I think he started maybe 5, but he played a lot in other games. But yeah, 1,000 yards as a rookie, not even playing. He was a healthy scratch the first game.
I will add that part though. He was sharing carries with Patterson for a minute.
And he was sharing carries with 3 other guys too. And obviously it didn't result to many wins. But yeah, like I said, the first rookie with over 1,000 yards, like 40 years for us. So my opinion, and then like I said, a lot of guys were hurt obviously throughout the year. So it really could have went to or went for anybody else. But like I said, he just most consistent workhorse back. Finish out the year really strong. Like I said, definitely gonna be RB1 for us next year, and then finish out last 2 comeback player of the year. I'm gonna go Geno. Like I said, breaking Russell Wilson's passing record, and obviously getting this team to the playoffs. Something that Russ wasn't able to do with his new team, and just everything he did this year. I even had him starting at quarterback a few times in fantasy, which was crazy. And then lastly, coach of the year. This one we'll probably all spend a little bit more time on. We might have differences. I wanted to go with Doug Peterson for sure, but and even thought about Pete Carroll a little bit, but I went with the ball, like Dad said earlier, because I just looked at that roster, especially on the offensive side, up and down. I said it all year, even when I was in London with my dad. I'm like, I don't know how y'all are about to come back and win this game when they was playing the Packers, but they just did it, and it's crazy. Like I said, you literally had Saquon. And that's it. Like Darius Slay, and I didn't think he's a slouch of receiver, but like any other team, if you look around, he's fourth or practice squad guys for some teams, like that has like those certified 2-3 receivers. So it's really crazy to see how much he got out of his guys, and like I said, got them to the playoffs as well. But Mo, I'll let you run through yours real quick. Like I said, I got 2 rookie of the years, defensive rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, comeback player of the year, and then coach of the year.
So defensive rookie of the year, I'm gonna switch it up. I'm going Tariq Woolen. Kind of for everything you said with Algier, you're like, he's a 5th round pick. Woolen was in the 4th round. Didn't make a lot of noise. A lot of people fell in love with him for the later time, but I mean, he was easily the 2nd best corner as a rookie. But I think he was neck and neck with Sauce Gardner, but Sauce had the swagger, the charisma coming into the season. Like he was my Yeah, he was my cornerback 1. He was Thad's cornerback 1 going into the so what we saw from Sauce, maybe he's a little better than we thought, only because we thought like this would be what he looked like in his prime, not his rookie year. But did he really surprise you with as good as he was? Like he was the best corner we had coming out of the draft. So I think with Tariq Woolen though, like his numbers, I don't know about interceptions, but as far as like if you look at his like lockdown numbers, they're very close. And this is a 4th round pick. And I'm gonna give him the friendly nod of he was on a better team. Like I'm gonna just do it. His team's in the playoffs. Offensive rookie of the year is gonna be a shared award. It's gonna be a shared award. 2 people are winning it.
I already know. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
Winning it. Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Come on now. They was the first 2 rookies to go over 1,000 yards as wide receivers. They were the first 2 former teammates to ever do that. And I don't know, did Odell and Landry come in the same year?
Yeah, they did. I think they did.
I think they did.
They didn't do that. Now I know they turned out. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying they didn't do that. The only other teammates that we would have said had they came out the same year would have did that would have been Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and we know that. But yeah, I think they might share the award. Now maybe Garrett Wilson gets the nod because the Jets were a little bit better. But who was better? You can't determine who really was better out of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, they pretty much were very similar in numbers, especially when it comes to yards. I don't know who had more receptions, but both of them got over 1,000 yards. Both of them was in a wobbly quarterback situation throughout the season, and both of them still produced and showed they were worth the value that they were drafted at. So, yeah, both of them are getting it. And then, what is it, comeback player of the year?
Yeah, comeback player of the year.
All right, so I'm going to give it to Saquon. I'm going to give it to Saquon because everybody's going to love Geno, and I get it. And it's a great story, and Geno played really well. Yeah. Geno also started off so hot that we excused his phase out, come back to reality in the middle.
Yeah.
We let that ride because it was such a Cinderella story. But, I mean, they're 9-8, and they're in the playoffs, so shout out to them. He didn't just fall by the wayside, but he did have a bad stretch of games where it was like, but we let it ride because Seattle still was in the playoff picture. Well, with Saquon Barkley, I mean, just think about like contract year. He was getting a lot of, I'll say he's getting a lot of negative energy towards him because it's like he's injury prone. He's not worth the money. The Giants should move up off of him all before the season. But if he comes back healthy, that's the biggest if. I mean, they were talking about him like they was talking about Anthony Davis, basically. And for him to come out and basically be the anchor of this offense, like, he was the best player on offense. They have no weapons but Saquon Barkley. You pretty much knew what they were going to do between Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. You essentially couldn't necessarily stop it. This is a team that's going to the playoffs. So I'm going to give it to Saquon Barkley. Like, he answered the bell. He's going to get his money. Now, is it a long 5-year contract? Maybe not. But he's going to get his money. The Giants are already prioritizing paying him because they realize he's back. He's healthy. He's good. I think what did he miss? Like one game this year? Did he miss a game this year?
Yeah,
I feel like he missed like one or two. And it
was
1 or
2, yeah, it wasn't that many.
Banged up, not injured, and it was like on the precaution side. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to him, and I think it's just because everybody gonna give it to Geno, so I'm gonna rock with Saquon Barkley and show somebody else some love. And then Coach of the Year, I hear the Dayball stuff, man. It's a great story, and I hear you telling me, you know, he ain't got much to work with offensively, and he turned Daniel Jones. I hear all that. That's cool. But what did you win? Like, really, what did you win? And it's not a knock on the Giants. Had they won the division or even came close, bro, he would get it. But Doug Peterson just took a team with back-to-back number 1 picks and won the division. So, like, even with Pete Carroll, like, I hear that, that's cool. But the only one of those coaches that we're considering that once comes out of the regular season winning something is Doug Peterson winning the division title. And you could tell me the division wasn't that good. That's fine. I know the stakes were harder for the Giants because the team went 14-3 and another team went 12-5. But Doug Peterson won the division. And he could have folded it away, and Jacksonville could have no-showed on week 18. And instead of winning the division, they missed the playoffs. But, I mean, they turned it around after a slow start. And Doug Peterson, to me, he had more of a thing to get through as taking the job as Jacksonville because of how toxic the environment got with Urban Meyer prior to him getting fired. Like, you were fixing a lot, and you were also fixing the worst team in the league, and you went from worst to first in your division. So I'm going to give Doug Peterson credit. I'm going to give him some credit for Trevor Lawrence looking good. I'm going to give him some credit for signing some of those guys that we thought was overpaid. I thought Christian Kirk was overpaid at $18 million a year, but with the bag, they got him at a discount. Yeah. He did. I think he got over 1,000 yards. Zay Jones was close to 1,000 yards. I think Evan Ingram was right at that 800-yard mark. And everybody say Doug Peterson good with, quarterbacks. And so you see it with Trevor Lawrence, and you had saw it when he had Carson Wentz. Like, so you see certain things, but yeah, I got to give it to Doug Peterson, bro, because he came out of the regular season winning something. He won the division. Tell me how weak the division is. That's fine. At the end of the day, you got to win your division, and that's what he did as a first-year head coach. And it looks very promising with less roster holes for Jacksonville. So I think their ascension will be even higher than the Giants because there's still plenty of holes on that roster. Where Jacksonville, you're like, if we could just fill with good enough talent, man, we could make this run for the next 4 or 5 years, and that starts with hiring Doug Peterson. So yeah, give me Doug Peterson.
Yeah, I feel that.
What was the first one?
Defensive rookie.
Defensive rookie. I'm gonna go. I wanted to go Aiden, man, because he was all around the place. He had I think 8 or 9 sacks. He had 3 picks, but I'm gonna go with Sauce Gardner. To come in as a top 5 pick, the expectations are there. You got Revis, Cromartie, some really good corners that have been there. And for him to live up to the hype, I heard the first couple of weeks they called him Ahmad until he started making plays, and then they started calling him Sauce. But he's lived up to the hype. A long 6'3" corner, with great man-to-man coverage skills, and in the league they play a bunch of man. So for him to come in and to live up to the hype, and in a division where it's not tough sledding, you got Stephon Diggs, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Jalen Waddle. Patriots don't have much, but for him to match up against the top receivers every time, he didn't really run from the smoke as a rookie. Some rookies, they play the scheme, they play zone, but he told his coaches, he wants to follow. Not all the time, majority of the time, he held his own. The second time they played the Bills, Josh Allen didn't target him, throw the ball his way. So that says something when the top 5 quarterbacks, aren't targeting you. So I'm going to go Sauce. Tyreek Woolen was a close second because he had more interceptions. And the man didn't even play cornerback until halfway through his college career. He switched positions. He was a Richard Sherman type thing. That's why Sherman loved him so much. But I'm going to go Sauce for that. And offensive rookie of the year, I'm going to switch it up. It was going to be one of the Ohio State guys. I was personally going to go Garrett Wilson because of his QB situation. I know Andy Dalton's not the same, but he's better than Zach Wilson at this point in time. I'm going to go Brock Purdy. I know it's kind of crazy, but for him to step into those shoes, I know it's a lot of expectations, taking over for a roster like that.
Has he lost?
No, and to be the last pick.
No, he hasn't. My fault, because they won 10 in a row.
Yeah, he hasn't lost either.
He hasn't lost, no. And he's looking good while doing it. It's crazy. They're not missing a beat.
Yeah, he's Mr. Relevant. It's way too many expectations. Jimmy G is the game manager. Just don't mess up the game. He got in and did a little bit more. He's throwing outside the numbers. And then when a rookie or a backup takes over, usually the coach, slims down the playbook a little bit. He closes the playbook. They're running the same stuff. He's taking more shots. I will say in the playoffs, he does need to be a little bit more careful because he is taking a little bit of shots, and they will get picked off in the playoffs. So, you got to get all the possessions you can in the playoffs. But for him to step in that role and act like he's been there playing for years, the guy, everybody loves him. He's confident. It's just a lot. It's hard to do that in this league. And then when you're taking over a team that has Super Bowl expectations, the pressure's on you. You're the guy that touches the ball every single play. All these playmakers around you, how am I going to get them the ball? But he's doing it. He's doing it well. So shout out to him. And, Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't get enough credit for making all these quarterbacks look very good. But shout out to Brock Purdy for not messing it up because he could easily be messing it up right now. So, Brock Purdy.
I forgot he hasn't lost. So yeah, I give it to him.
That's only because he only played the 6 games.
If he win it over them, for winning 10 in a row and all that, yeah, I'd be good with that because his numbers weren't mid. It ain't like he was just throwing for barely over 100 yards. He's got some touchdown passes. I think he got 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns. Yeah. And then for offense, for a team with Super Bowl expectations, not to miss a beat. With the last pick of the draft, bro. You're on the roster still, and you're about to try and lead them in a deep playoff run. Yeah, watch out. Bye-bye, Trey Lance.
For comeback player of the year, I'm going with one of his teammates, Christian McCaffrey. We know what he can do as a running back, but, his last couple seasons in Carolina, he was injury-prone. I think 2 years ago he played 3 games. Last year he played 6 or 7. But this year he has 1,900 total yards, almost 1,900 total yards. And they're not even he's been getting the bulk of the carries now, but when they first brought him in, they were easing him in and he was splitting carries. But for him to have almost 2,000 yards and not getting the full workload, I just think, all the doubters with Saquon, is he injury prone? Is he going to be able to hold up? The knock for him coming out of college was because could he run in between the tackles? He showed he could, but, he took the beating. But I don't know what he did this offseason, but his body's ready to go and he's making plays. And I think he's going to be one of the difference makers for the Niners in the playoffs. I know Devo's coming back, but in all honesty, he might be their best offensive player. I know some people like Devo better, but I just think everything he can do. I know Devo can run and catch too, but Christian McCaffrey does it with some of the best. So I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey for comeback player of the year. I know Geno's a great option because nobody believed in him, but I'm going to go CMC. And for coach of the year, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go Pete Carroll. People like me, even myself,
Man, give your coach the award, man. What you doing?
No. I gave him enough love. If I had to vote, I'm taking WP, but second would be Pete Carroll. A lot of people, including myself, had the Seahawks taking C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young in the top 5, and Geno said, I'm not going for that. That has a lot to do with Pete Carroll and the way they drafted. Kenneth Walker, Tyreek Woolen, Kobe Bryant, the other corner, Charles Cross, the tackle they drafted from Mississippi State. The draft department hit on most of their picks, and that's what you do when you're trying to rebuild. You did that, and then the motivation, you got to motivate these guys. I know it's probably hard to keep DK motivated at first because you're losing Russell Wilson going to Geno. But he got the best out of his personnel, and he got those guys playing hard. They started off, high, then they dropped down a little bit, but it showed his coaching. I give him the award because of what he did for the last 5 to 6 games of the season. When you're going on a slump with a team like that, a young team, they can easily drop their heads and finish out the season losing their last 7 or 8 games. But he got his guys ready to play. They fought through some adversity and they did what they had to do to make the playoffs. Now they will be going home in the first round, but taking over doing what he did with a team that was projected to pick in the top 5. I don't know how everybody felt, but I'm pretty sure the majority of people had them picking in the top 10, taking a quarterback. But they can still do that with the Broncos pick, but still, for him to go 9-8,
we thought they had their pick too.
Yeah. So for him to do all that after giving up your franchise quarterback for the last 10 years speaks volumes. And Pete Carroll's not done yet, even though he's real old. I know he's in the 70s, right?
70.
Yeah, he's older than what he looked too.
Yeah,
he's older than what he looked.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, shout out to Pete Carroll for doing a great job. And as you know, he failed his first time in the league, so he's gotten it right the second time. And I don't really know the history of Seattle. Is he the greatest coach they've had? He brought them a Super Bowl ring. I don't know, but
I would say so. He's been to the Super Bowl twice, won one.
Yeah.
Who was their coach when they had Sean Alexander and Hasselbeck? Mike Holmgren?
Yeah, wasn't it Mike Holmgren?
Yeah. I think he did a little better, though. He got a ring, so out of that. Yeah. But, yeah, shout out Pete Carroll.
Yes, sir. And then next, we're going to kind of move over to our off the ball rankings. I know that you didn't get yours in, but I know you got a few. Of course, we got, definitely want to hear, one, I guess, what you may think of our rankings, and then obviously throw yours in there. Me and Mo's not that similar, but we do. I think our bottom guys are more similar than our top guys for sure. But obviously, we wanted to kind of just put it up here. I know you guys are going to be talking about it tomorrow on Cruise Island, but it's kind of wanted to put it up here, see what everybody thought our 1 through 14 going to the playoffs, ranking the teams, and then kind of just giving a little bit of explanation because I know Cruise kind of just threw it out there. We didn't really talk too much about it in the chat. At least I didn't. But for me, I got Kansas City 1, Bills 2, San Fran 3, Bengals 4, Eagles 5, Cowboys 6, Vikings 7, Chargers 8. Got the Jaguars at 12. I kind of could flip it. I think Mo has it how I would have had it. Maybe have them at 10. Because of matchup, I think their matchup's a lot better than Seattle's. But when I was ranking, I kind of just going based off just straight feeling. But then obviously Baltimore 9, New York 11, Bucks 14, Dolphins 13. And then, like I said, Seattle at 10. The main, like I said, top of the difference. Obviously, like I said, we can see Mo's. A lot of people weren't as high on the Bills. Well, besides, I guess. Jeff, shout out Jeff. He does have them 1, but me and Aaron have them 2, and I purely had them at 2. I know they haven't been playing, just lights out like maybe Kansas City. They have had a lot of close games, and they've been able to pull them out, towards the end of the season. But the main reason I have them at 2 was obviously because of, and me and Dad talk about it all the time on the shows. I think he knows where I'm going. Like certain occurrences happen, certain situations happen, and it just catapults teams to wins. Or just Cinderella runs. Like we always talk all the time, how somebody will lose, they'll trade a big player, and that team comes out. We think they're about to get blown out. They'll win the game. They fire their head coach. They'll come out and win the next 2-3 games. Obviously, what happened with Hamlin, none of us had ever seen ever. Like I'm sitting there looking, this scared shit. Because I'm like, oh, like my first thought was like, yeah, the way he fell back, I was like, yeah, he needs medical attention right now. And I didn't think they got to him in time to get oxygen to him. And when that happens, you could be brain dead, which obviously is a whole other issue. Obviously, thank God he's okay. He's out. He's speaking. He's talking. He's on the way home shortly. So things like that. Overall, that's why I kind of put them at 2. Like things like that can fuel teams, can catapult teams, and they have obviously they have a reason to play. They're in the playoffs. Obviously they're professionals. They want a Super Bowl ring, but to see their brothers in arms go down like that and to be okay, that's something I feel like that's going to rally the team. It's going to get them together. Guys are going to go 110% harder than what they normally would do. So certain stuff like that is kind of why I put them 2, because I really had San Fran 2, even with Purdy being that quarterback. But then I kind of thought about that and felt like that they can kind of go on a run and shock a lot of people. But everything else kind of just fell in place to kind of just how I'm feeling about the teams going into the playoffs and kind of just how they finished out the season, in my opinion. But Mo, like I said, I know you got yours on here, so of course I just want to let you talk about your rankings and kind of where you thought to place certain people at.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's eye popper at mine would be putting Buffalo at 5. But I know, like, bro, tragedy does bring Cinderella stories. And I mean, if Buffalo won the Super Bowl, it wouldn't be a Cinderella story. Let's just be honest. They came into the season the favorites. Josh Allen was the favorite for MVP. So we're not finna. What I don't want the mainstream media to do. Don't build this like Buffalo about to go on a Cinderella story, like they weren't the favorites coming into the season, and everybody was supposed to bow down to Buffalo, even though they ain't even went to AFC Championship yet. But I got them at 5 for the simple fact I think Kansas City better. And I know they beat them in the regular season. That's 2 years in a row that Buffalo did that, lost to them in the playoffs. So not really worried about that, at least not yet. Buffalo got to beat. They got to dethrone Kansas City. And to me, Cincinnati right now is better as well. Like, I like Cincinnati on a neutral field since they'll probably play each other, it'd probably be on a neutral field or something. So I like Cincinnati on a neutral field. They're rolling. Buffalo had some ups and downs, and it's crazy to go 13-3 and say you had ups and downs, but there were points where like they just weren't performing against teams that they should have just blew out, got them out the way early. Josh Allen he had a spurt where he wasn't playing that great. So yeah, that's why I'm not buying into them where I'm looking at San Francisco and Philly, and I'm like, okay, I think Kansas City and Cincinnati is better. But then when I look at San Francisco and Philly, like going into also think about the power rankings, like San Francisco and Philly might meet each other in NFC Championship. Buffalo could not make it. Like if they have to play Cincinnati in the next round, like they could not make it. So I like the top 2 teams in the AFC and the top 2 teams in the NFC over Buffalo. I ain't necessarily rated because Buffalo would not play San Francisco or Philly until the Super Bowl. So I ain't really value how they would play against them. I just value how they would look against Kansas City and Cincinnati, and I would take both of them over Buffalo right now. Going towards like the bottom, I think clearly I wasn't as high on Jacksonville as like Rob or Aaron. Aaron tripping.
But, Aaron had him at 6. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
I think 10 is about right. I gave them respect for winning their division. Some of the bottom teams like the Bucks, the Giants, obviously the Dolphins. Like I put the Dolphins as the worst team for the simple fact they're probably going into the playoffs with Skylar Thompson, bro. And I'm not buying into that. Now, if you told me Tua was playing, I'd love to revisit this and say, but I still would keep them at the bottom because I don't know what Tua is about to look like. Like he's still in protocol. So I don't know if he's going to be 100%. And I know nobody is at this point. Baltimore, I think now I would switch them to probably about 13 for the simple fact it seems like Lamar's not playing. I made that based on thinking Lamar will play. But and I still think they'll get bounced in the first round regardless, but it's not looking likely that they'll play. And I think Aaron kind of made it like Lamar's not playing by putting them at 14. Yeah. Some people had to gripe about me putting Dallas at 6. But when I look at it, bro, it's like you've seen the best version of Dallas this year. So if they bring their A game, how good they really are. you've also seen the worst of them, and this is around, it's January, and we're talking about the Cowboys, so you expect the worst, but even when I look behind them, I trust them just as much or a little more than Minnesota. You can't tell me you trust Minnesota more than you trust Dallas. I trust them more than I trust the Chargers. I don't like the Chargers matchup essentially for them. Even though they're getting healthy at the right moment, I still don't like them with a Jacksonville team who's playing with house money like that. Said a win would just be, it'd be the icing on the cake for their season. So that's always a dangerous team. Who else did I have? And then outside of that, nothing else is really arguable. Like them teams that I have, you can argue Minnesota and maybe the Chargers and maybe if Jacksonville because they did beat us. But to me, like with looking at the matchups and Dallas, knowing how good they really could play, and it's not like I put them in 3 or 4. Like, bro, I put them at 6 right about. I had a hard time between them, Minnesota, and the Chargers. So I just gave it to Dallas. Maybe that was my biased nod right there, but I couldn't talk myself.
I do have 40-3 win over them as well. So
yeah, I couldn't talk myself into the Chargers who finished 10-7. Like, what have I seen from them that like, oh yeah, they're just better than Dallas going into the playoffs? Outside of if you like Justin Herbert more, like they're not just better. So yeah, that's basically it. I know I got the Bucks. I felt really bad putting the Bucks at 13. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because we play the Bucks. And people gonna bring that up that you felt like Dallas was the 6th best team in Tampa. You put them at 13 and they bust your head on Monday night. So that's I ain't even want to rank Tampa at all. I just wanted to be like NA, got no comment. But I had to do it. I don't trust them. They're not that good. They won a weak division. They're under 500 for like the first or second time in Tom Brady's career. And I say all that for them to beat us on Monday night. But yeah, that was kind of my thought behind the rankings.
You gotta have some faith, bro. That Bucks team's trash. There's no like they're trash. I'll winning that game easy first round win for y'all.
That Dallas team
kind of just thoughts. I know, like I said, you probably gonna put out a ranking as well. But.
Yeah, that Dallas team that showed up against Washington is trash too. So just saying. And it's January.
That is true.
The Cowboys
trash versus trash. I think y'all trash is a little bit less stinky.
It's the Cowboys in January, bro. Like I said they were going to go to the Super Bowl, but I felt like that before Sunday when I woke up. I don't feel that same way, but I'm going to stand by it. And we're going to get there. I got to stand on it. I can't let a little week 18 blunder be thinking different. And Dak, we trust.
And I'm going to pray for you. But
I'm really only going this hard for y'all because I just don't like to know.
I don't know. It's a tough one. As bad as the Bucks are playing, it's the playoffs. Maybe they turn it on and they look completely different. You never know. It's gonna be like, all right. So I didn't come up with rankings because I'm not on here, but I have in mind what I'm gonna do, and I'm honestly gonna wait. Like I'll probably put it out today or tomorrow. But I have a question for y'all, a real question, before we talk about best matchup. Which team out of like the bottom, 4 through 7, do we think is going to make like an NFC championship run? Like what team could NFC or AFC championship run? Because there's always that one team that pulls off an upset or two and they're in the championship and we don't expect it. Like who's that team out of y'all for y'all?
Jacksonville.
Out of our bottom ones, yeah.
Like out of the AFC or NFC, one of the. I could see the Giants, bro. I don't know why, but I could see the Giants like winning a game or. I could see them beating Minnesota, but I could see them winning 2 games for some odd reason. Their offense is pedestrian.
Who do they play after though? Like
it depends on who wins. They got Minnesota first round.
Yeah.
And so they play. Yeah, no, it ends in San Francisco. Like even if they beat Minnesota, it ends in San Francisco. I'm sorry. Like I would say the Cowboys, if we had to play San Francisco next round, I'd be like, all right, it's cool. We got a playoff win, so you could get off back to back, but it ends in San Francisco.
Nah, but hey, if the Giants win and you or the Bucks win, they go play the Eagles. So I don't know. I could see that happening.
Oh yeah, because it's not bracket. It's about high low
seed.
Yeah, like number 1 seed's gonna get the lowest seed.
Yeah,
I thought they changed it to brackets now though. Like I thought they changed it to the next matchup is set regardless.
Oh, I hope not.
I don't think they did.
I want to find some world where we host the divisional round and we play somebody else besides the Chiefs, please.
Yeah.
But I could see the Jaguars doing it. Like I know if that's the case and they have to play the Chiefs, it's tough. But like they got of the guys that do it, the Cincinnati, and they got a young quarterback who's rolling right now and playing really well. Anything can happen, and they're playing with house money. So they're a dangerous team. Any win they collect in the playoffs is just a win in their back pocket for the future. So, like, Jaguars could get blown out by the Chargers and nobody would care. Like, you don't look at the Jaguars as fraudulent. They won their division. They did what they needed to do. So now they're just playing with house money. They get to go out there and play freely while Justin Herbert got something to prove. Obviously, Mahomes is trying to get back to AFC Championship. The pressure's on Cincinnati now because they went to the Super Bowl. If Lamar plays and he wins, like, we're trying to see how well Lamar can go deep into the playoffs. Buffalo's trying to win. Like, they got to get to a Super Bowl. So there's pressure on everybody except Jacksonville. And then I'd probably say the Giants or Seahawks, but I just don't see the Seahawks beating the 49ers. But something to think about with the Seahawks is the 49ers already beat them twice this year. It's hard to beat a team twice, let alone 3 times. That's just something to think about. Is it's hard to clean sweep them 3 times.
Hey, and it's Brock Purdy's first playoff game. You never know how it could come out. Like, this what the playoffs are for, though. You find out everything about every team.
Yep.
And before you go on, shout out to my whoever Nick is. He said Trevor Lawrence got that dog in him. I don't know him, but I made a new friend because he's speaking facts.
Oh yeah, that's my boy, man.
He does need to play a little better though, because I was at the game on Saturday and the stats look good, but it wasn't as good as it. I mean, y'all, if y'all watched the game, y'all saw.
I think he played careful. Yeah. I think Trevor Lawrence just tried not to blow it. Like, that's what I was when I was watching. I'm like, he's just trying not to blow it. But now he's playing with house money, so he can do whatever he wants, and that's kind of the scary thing. Is somebody that talented is allowed to just go out there and do whatever, no pressure.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Hopefully, but I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit, but like, what would be your first round matchup to watch? And we'll kind of end the show off on this and a few other things. But if you had to pick one matchup, which one? Obviously, besides you guys as teams, what would be the one matchup that you want that you're tuning into?
Yeah, I was gonna say my team because I think that's the best game of the wildcard weekend. I would like for us to blow them out, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But I'm gonna go. If I have to pick a matchup, honestly, if Lamar plays, is Bengals and Ravens. But I'm gonna go Cowboys, Buccaneers. 2 teams that like we don't know what we're gonna get. The Cowboys look real good for the first 12, I think 13 games of the season. In the last 5, they've slowed down a little bit. The Bucs have been awful all season, but they've shown like the ability for those last 15 minutes to lock in, or they'll put some stretches together where they're dominant for like 2 quarters. But I don't know. Like, this is the GOAT. I know he's playing another year, but this season's been good, not good by his standards. So I'm wondering if he'll be able to turn it up for the playoffs. We know how the Cowboys are. Everybody wants them to fail. As much as I dislike them, I want them to make a run so everybody's not on their neck. But if they're one and done, even though Mike McCarthy's won 10 games the last couple of years, will they fire him? Like, there's so many questions coming out of this game. I'm going to be locked in because I already know Mo's going to be in a bad place if they go home. Like, this looked like the year. This looked like the Super Bowl year. And for them to have a bad, December stretch, which they've done in the past, but for them to do that and to go home in the first round, it's not going to be a good look. So I'm going to go with Bucks, Cowboys for my matchup to watch.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way.
I think it might be a close game, but I think Cowboys run away with it, hopefully, like second half, like third quarter, just kind of turn it on. But for me, it would be Vikings-Giants, of course, rematch from a few weeks ago. Vikings, looked like they was going to run away with it, but Giants, came storming back. Like that's, I mean, I think after this week, if they were to beat the Vikings, it would be over with. But I think this is a closer matchup than what we expect because this is the only year, and me and Dad, I think, say it every year, like the Vikings, I just be waiting for them to fall off, just waiting. This year, like they came close because they had a lot of close games where they pulled back and won, obviously being down 0-33 to the Colts. Like as an playoff team, and that was a few weeks ago. That's crazy. But, just have been waiting for them to fall off a cliff. They just find a way to win. They're scrappy. The only thing, and another reason why I guess is my game to watch is because their secondary is trash, but the Giants have nobody that can really just tear up their secondary either. So it's like they're going to run the ball, but their front four is pretty decent. So it's just going to be a chess match. And like I said, a game that ended, 27, 24, scored last 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Giants have room for redemption if they win that game. More than likely they'd be seeing the 49ers and going home. But I think they have a possibility to win that one game. But Mo, who you got?
I'm gonna go Vikings Giants as well. For the simple fact, like I think this could be the upset right here. Like I think if a team got upset, I'm sorry, I don't consider the Bucks beating the Cowboys an upset. I just call it business as usual for the Cowboys in January. So people can paint the narrative that we got upset by Tom Brady all they want. Like that's just the Cowboys in January. Live with it, have fun with it, and whatever. I think the Giants really beating the Vikings, and they came back, almost beat the Vikings. They were down who? Xavier McKinney and somebody else on defense, and they will be there this week. There's another defensive back, but both of them will be back this week. I know their offense is pedestrian. I've seen a few teams run wild on the Vikings, including my Cowboys. I mean, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott just took turns just running down the field. I mean, even Zeke looked back explosive again against this team. I know Justin Jefferson could have a big game. I think this would be a close game, but if I picked the upset that I felt the most confident in, it would be the Giants beating the Vikings. Just because if there's one team and if there's one cursed state in sports, it would be Minnesota. Like in a sense, bro, like nothing good happens for any of their teams, no matter how good they are. From university to professional, it doesn't matter. No matter how good they are, it never falls the right way for them. So I think this could be that for Minnesota. I think the Giants are well coached. They're going to keep it very simple. They're not going to get flashy. If they get a lead, they're going to be hard to take back over the lead because they can run the ball, run a lot of time off the clock. And they do have a stout enough defense that if the offense is doing a little bit of anything and Saquon Barkley is having an elite game, Vikings ain't just about to put up 40 points on this Giants defense. So, yeah, I think the Giants and Vikings is intriguing, but so is the Jaguars and Chargers. I mean, let's just say the Jags win this game and Trevor Lawrence throws for 325 and 3 touchdowns. Like, what conversation comes with that the next day? Is Trevor Lawrence better than Justin Herbert? Or is Justin Herbert overrated? Like, that conversation starts, so it creates some content, it creates some controversy, and it creates, good conversation that could be a realistic question. If Trevor Lawrence does come to play, plays great, and Justin Herbert doesn't get the job done in his first playoff appearance, this is both two, future of the NFL quarterbacks. These guys are going to be here to stay, top 5 quarterbacks for the next 10 to 15, 20 years, however long, 10 to 15 years. And this could build for a matchup that we'd be looking forward to see in the regular season and playoffs for years to come. So that's also something. I like the young quarterbacks being able to go back and forth too. So those 2 games are mine.
Yeah, that's true. It's a bunch of different, obviously, young quarterback matchups. Obviously, if Lamar is hopefully playing, Tua, if he's hopefully playing, the whole AFC, honestly, there's young quarterbacks running wild. So, like you said, definitely one of the matchups that I'm hoping y'all, move on, because even the game that y'all played against the Chiefs, y'all only lost.
We'll be better. Yeah,
y'all be better in that game if y'all were able to play them again. So, be a little bit different landscape, but
hey, I gotta go, fellas. My bro called. Yeah. It's an emergency, so I gotta go. Hey, appreciate you.
We're about to wrap it up. Appreciate you for joining us again, as always. We'll catch you in the chat.
All right, y'all.
All right.
But I mean, that was pretty much it. Anyway, obviously, good little wrap up show for the year. Let's get that good little wrap up show for the year. Got to hit on everything from the regular season all the way touching a little bit on the playoffs. Of course, I'm pretty sure we'll probably have a show or two. Either as a network or even us two before the playoffs hit off this upcoming weekend. But real quick before we do, closing words, final words, definitely want to shout out our sponsor, SeatGeek. If you are, around and your team is in the playoffs, obviously if there's still tickets available, use Off the Ball for $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. And, be in the stands, be in the house when the team is playing. But obviously, this goes for any sporting event. So college basketball, NBA, got MLB coming around the corner. Shit, even soccer too. NHL if you're an NHL fan. So it really doesn't matter. Any sporting event, any regular event, any concert, anything, use Off the Ball. Get $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. But Dad, real quick before we do head out, any closing words, closing thoughts?
Nah, man. Honestly, just glad to be back. Glad that my team's in the playoffs, man. It feels a little different, Like coming in this season, I had expectations for us to be better, but I didn't expect us to be this much better. And just proud of my team and the unit and everything they've done. So just looking forward to Saturday, man. I'm either gonna be real happy or be let down, and there's really nothing I can do about it. But hey, shout out to the Jags.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'll be a secret Jags fan this playoffs. I always find one team that I try to root for since my team hasn't been semi close since 2017. So we're gonna band together as a podcast. I'm gonna root for the guys as well. But yeah, man, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Appreciate everybody for commenting. Obviously, Ken earlier. We had our guy Anthony Price and then Nick as well. Hopefully everything's cool with Mo's guy too. And appreciate Mo for joining us, hopping on, talking the NFL season with us. But definitely check us out. Like I said, tomorrow I know Cruise Island will be talking a little bit more about the power rankings for the playoffs and talk a little bit more about first round matchups and then just the playoffs overall. Catch everybody showing on Off the Ball Network. Follow us on OTBN on Facebook and Twitter, and then obviously us on Twitter at WTGMTM podcast, and then What the Game Needs to Be on Instagram and Facebook as well. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We try to be more consistent. We're gonna try to get these shows done every Tuesday for sure. And we'll catch you all next time. And until then, y'all be safe and have a good one.